Hello everybody, it's Proxy. You may have already read the title of the video, but if you haven't, this is going to cover what happened from August of last year to February of this year. And it's going to cover where it's been going on, why have I been so sporadic, why my uploads not been consistent despite the promise. I'm going to explain what's happened and what's been going on so you guys have like a better understanding. So to start off, through my entire life, I've had depression. It's just something I've lived with. And what that means is the struggle of people caring for me and people genuinely loving me is something that doesn't always go all the way there. Like I'll smile and laugh, but I'm not accepting it, if that makes sense. It kind of hurts sometimes. And that's weird to say, right? Oh, I love you. Oh man, you know. And it's not like I'm going, "Oh, I hate your love." It's not it at all. It's just a weird reaction from me, right? Like it hurts to be loved. And that's always been the case for me. For as long as I can remember, ever since I was a little kid, right? And but I've always kept these emotions in check. It's never been that big of a problem. Um, when I was a kid, about the age of 9 years old, my family at the time, my step family, had abandoned me and left me with my father and didn't even bother to contact me and cut all ties with me. And that kind of drove those feelings up. But as a 10-year-old, I didn't really understand them, right? So I just continued going on. Like I knew I was sad and upset, but I couldn't place why I was so sad and upset. Growing up into ages of 16, I've started to become, well, at the ages of 14, I almost took my own life. That's why I said trigger warning. You get to that point where you start feeling like nobody will be there for you and it'd be better if you were gone. Those feelings became extremely prominent in my teenage years and were very hard to shake off. And eventually I hit my limit, but luckily I had a friend at the time who pulled me back into the grips of sanity and saved my life. Moving on from there, and the reason why I'm telling you all this is to set up for why what's happened recently is very important, right? So we'll get to that. But I have to explain why it's relevant and why it's important. So moving on from there, I found my biological mother, and I was extremely over the moon happy because I had never met my mother before. I was kidnapped from her at a very young age, and so being reunited at the age of 16, well, I thought, wow, this is amazing. But something about me is after a really big high, I have really big lows. So I get really happy, and then for like a week straight, I'm feeling like the scum of the earth, and there's not a dang thing I can do about it. And I've always been that way, right? So I can't help it. I'll get really, really happy, and then once that happiness wears off, I'm extremely depressed. And I don't know why that's that way, but it just is. And going from there, right, I'm living with her and things are going all right. I got to meet my two biological brothers for the very first time and stepbrother. So that was really, really cool. And I got to meet some of my sisters and aunts and all that. And it was really cool to meet the other side of my family, right? But that feeling inside of being abandoned by my previous family always still resembled there. And so I never trusted when they hugged me, I never trusted it. I never trusted their words or what they said. I just kind of nodded my head, smiled, and went, okay, I'm happy for you, blah, 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 right? Moving on from that, like going forward, those emotions were still there, and it culminated in 2019. Yeah, 2019, where me and my mother had a really big fight, and it resulted in me saying a lot of horrible things that I really shouldn't have said. I don't know why they came out of my mouth, but they did. And I remember that very vividly because I remember that pit in my stomach going, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. I didn't want to say that. And all these feelings and thoughts going through my head that, oh, I should just run away. I should disappear. It'd be better if I was gone. And all those thoughts started to really come to the forefront. And I remember how just hopeless I felt. And I've always felt a sense of hopelessness no matter what I do, right? Like I always feel like, oh, I'm not working hard enough. And then when I work too hard, I'm like, oh, I'm doing too much. They're going to hate it. And I can't ever find that balance. And it's like, sorry, I'm shaking a little bit. Not something I'm very used to talking about, but feel it's important. Anyway, moving on from that, right, that huge fight, we eventually reconciled and all that. But going on from that, things seemed to be going all right until 2020. I remember 2020 being the worst year of my life. And I'm going to explain to you why. My biological older brother took his own life. He was found hanging by his girlfriend. And I just remember sitting in that hospital room, staring at him on a respirator, and I didn't know how to feel. I just stared at him. Hours went by and I just stared at him. I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't drink, I just stared at him. And he breathed, but there was nothing there. He was gone. And it always messes with my head to know that I feel his heartbeat and his lungs taking in air, but his brain was gone. There was nothing there. He was brain dead. He had cut the oxygen to his brain enough to the point where he would never wake up. And I had to say goodbye, because a week after that, he was taken off the respirator, and I don't need to talk about what that looked like. Following that event, I became very closed in. I didn't really express my feelings a lot. And the reason why that is my brother was suffering from depression as well. And I kept telling him about my problems, and I don't think that helped, right? And even though I'm told not to blame myself, or it wasn't my fault, I still feel like I played a part in that by not being there enough, not trying hard enough, not telling him how much I loved him enough, right? And because of that, I thought maybe, and those thoughts still go through my head constantly. What could I have done differently? How could I do better? What could I have done? Those thoughts still almost daily go through my head, right? I feel incredibly guilty because I didn't do enough. And those thoughts always have remained in my head. And through 2020, the rest of it, because this happened in August, obviously my mother was completely destroyed, and my dad he kind of shoved himself into work, so I was forced to process these emotions alone with no one to help. And so I sat there and stewed in my depression and anger and anguish constantly. And I kept making audios and kept trying to push on, putting on a fake smile, trying to tell everyone, it's okay, I'm fine. Everything's gonna be okay. And I kept telling myself that over and over and over and over again. Everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay. As the tears just flew down my face, I still am haunted by those days because what comes next is very not good. I went through a full year of processing these emotions alone by myself, and I tried to be a rock for everyone around me, tried to be emotionally stable for my mother and for my dad, and I wasn't able to hold it together. Cracks and crinks started to form in the armor, and those crinks resulted in me lashing out and me being colder and crueler than I otherwise should be. I treated those around me as if they were nothing but tools at my disposal. And I'm not saying that I was evil necessarily, but I wasn't being the best person, right? I was very fake. I kept faking my emotions, faking my happiness, faking lust, faking everything. Because all I felt inside was just agony, pure agony. It wasn't even just sadness or anger, it was something new. I didn't know how to deal with it. And I still don't know how to deal with it. I may go to therapy now and I'm able to get it off my chest, but the feeling of just complete helplessness, of watching everything around you fall to pieces and there's not a dang thing you can do. Watching your family tear themselves apart. And all the while, you got to keep pretending that you're happy so they can be happy, so that you can be supportive of them when you need support yourself and they can't give it to you. And my support structure completely fell apart that year. And coming up on my brother's anniversary in 2022, I had my extreme explosion. I completely lost my mind. And I mean that in every sense of the word. All of the pain I'd been holding in just came out at once. And it was violent, explosive, cruel, cold, and I would say even evil for how I acted. I didn't hurt anyone, but my words certainly did. It was very, very wrong what I did. I'm not going to make excuses. It was. And I remember it, the look on my mom's face when she stared at me in disbelief of what I had just said. I'm not going to say what I said. Can't be repeated, but just know it was bad enough to cause a very strong divide in the family. And after that, I was checked into a mental health facility. And I stayed there for 3 days with nothing but a clock, a Bible, and food. I couldn't talk to anyone. I was just stuck in an empty room with grippy socks and a hospital gown, just staring at the blank walls, the gray, just staring at it. There was no windows. It was just an empty room with a clock, a Bible, and sometimes people came in and gave me food and then left. And that was hell, pure hell, because I was there with nothing to distract me but my own thoughts. They curled and twisted, screaming at me, mocking me. I remember how bad it was. I was losing my mind. The only thing I could hear was the tick of the clock, and it drove me mad. Do you know how bad that is? To just be in a room alone with only your thoughts after you've just done something really bad, if you were just cast out. It's maddening. Three days later, my second older brother came to pick me up, and he brought me to his house. I then started living with them. Over that time, I was given therapy, and I was effectively made a full-time babysitter. of two wonderful little girls. And through going to therapy and interacting with those two little girls, I slowly got better. Not at first, but slowly. I got better, and I got better, and I got better over the course of 6 months. I slowly improved. Or was it 5? I think it was 5 months, but I slowly improved and became better. The thoughts were still there, but they were quieter. They finally started to get quieter. Interacting with those kids and raising them and teaching them life lessons and playing with them and watching Saturday morning cartoons with them and eating breakfast with them. It awakened something inside of me that I didn't know was there. A sort of paternal instinct. And through that instinct, it quieted everything else out. The only thing that mattered to me was those two little girls. And then everything fell apart. I'm not going to get into it too much right now because the divorce is still happening. But long story short, my second oldest brother and his ex-wife are getting a divorce. And because of that, they were not going to pay the payments on the house and they had to go move out, right? The problem was I wasn't told this until the day I had to move out. So I just had to grab a suitcase and pack as much stuff as I could within 5 minutes. And just like that, everything was torn from me again. Like losing my family the first time, I just lost it a second time. I had to watch as I had to go say goodbye to those two little girls. And I didn't even have the heart to tell them I was never going to see them again. I had to lie to their face. And I didn't feel good about it, but I had to lie. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to. So those two little girls wouldn't be devastated. And I remember the drive back to my parents' house and how much dread I was filled with, knowing that I just had everything ripped from me again. And that paternal instinct I had before now worked in reverse. It filled me up with more dread and more anxiety and more depression than I ever felt before. Those weren't my biological children, but caring for them did something really special to my heart and head. And having that ripped away from me was like a piece of me got took out of me. It's like I'm only 25% of the person I was after that. I felt myself slip, start to fall back down to where I was before. Luckily, I still have my therapy, and that's kept me going and healthy somewhat. But I've still made a lot of horrible, bad decisions. Some of my friends can contest to and tell me. They tell you guys if you ever poked around. During January and February, I didn't even have a bed to my name. I didn't have any laundry or anything. I had nothing. The only thing I had were a couple basic bathroom supplies and whatever I could carry with me, which was like a couple pairs of pants, shirts, and underwear. I didn't even have socks. Through the courses of January and February, I was able to get clothes again. I was able to get my bed back. And my parents let me borrow quite a few of their things so I could live somewhat comfortably. And March came. And now the way things stand in March is I'm supposed to get a lot of my stuff back, right? We're going to see how that goes. Supposedly tomorrow I'm getting it back. But this is what's been going on, right? And I wanted to give you the context before to explain why I am the way I am. Obviously, it's a super abridged version because I could talk for hours, but we don't have hours to talk. So, the reason why I made this video, though, and the big main reason why this video is being made, is I wanted to give a message out to everybody who's watching this video and who has watched this far. If you're suffering with depression, anxiety, hell, even if you're just stressed about something that's coming up, tell someone, talk to someone. I know it sounds cliche. I know everybody says it. I know. Okay? I get annoyed too when I hear it. But talking to someone, getting it off your chest, even if it's just for a moment to breathe, helps so much more than you realize. I think that one moment to breathe can make the difference. And to those people out there who notice your friend being secluded, who notice them pulling away, who notices them hiding away, please, if there's one thing I want you to do, please go talk to them. Check on them. Even if they say to go away, just, I don't know, maybe get them something to eat, drop them off some food, let them know you care. Because when you're stuck in a depressive episode, it's hard to think that anyone cares about you. You think it's so easy just to die. You think it's easy. No one's going to care about me. No one's going to know that I'm gone, but it's not true. I know it's not true. Logically, it is not true. I've made a lot of friends. I have family that loves me. I have a dog. And I have a dream that one day I'm going to get to babysit those 2 baby girls again. Those are my goals. That is my big goal right now. And that's all I wanted to say. Just, if you're suffering, seek a friend. And if you're a friend who knows your friend's suffering, be a friend for them. All right, that's all, everybody. I love you all. Bye-bye, guys.